There's no secret formula for scaling support and boosting customer satisfaction. But there is the all-new Service Hub from HubSpot, bringing service and support together in one powerful platform so you can deliver the best experiences possible and free up reps' time with an AI-powered help desk. Also, you can keep customers happy. Secrets out. Service Hub is a game changer. Visit HubSpot.com/service to learn more. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday, May 22nd. I'm John Weigell here with Mark Dent, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Red Lobster has been the talk of everyone's towns this week. The seafood chain restaurant declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy on Sunday, and we're all likely trying to see if our beloved local Red Lobster is still around. You know, yours may not still be there, but even though 87 restaurants have closed so far, the chain isn't exactly done yet. So how did they get here, and where is the lobster and the cheddar biscuits going? We'll get to that in a bit, but first let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. Starting us off today, the latest in fast food wars, Wendy's is undercutting McDonald's new $5 meal deal with a $3 breakfast combo of its own. It's hard to complain about fast food giants competing when it's in our benefit, right, Mark?
John, I think that you and I kind of maybe brought this to life because the last time we were on here together a couple of weeks ago, I was saying how it was over $10 for my value meal at Wendy's, and I wasn't happy about it.
That's right. They saw our verbal pitchforks in the air and said, you know what? We got to give these guys a break. So thanks, Wendy's. Appreciate you listening.
Yeah. But I also think this is a really interesting sort of response to what we saw also, I think from just a couple of weeks ago where McDonald's had said that inflation had been, such a problem that its core customers weren't really coming in anymore because they just didn't even want to pay for fast food. So, I mean, this is potentially just like a save your neck kind of move here for both of them.
Definitely. Yeah, we talked a lot about how McDonald's Q1 was down a lot further than they thought it would be. And that the CEO said something about moving their menu items into more of a value pace than they were in the past few years. And, we're seeing this across other brands too. Yesterday, we actually reported that Target is lowering the price on about 5,000 of its goods to compete with Walmart. So It seems like there's some combative stuff against inflation going on right now.
Thankfully.
Next up, Swifties are at it yet again, and this time they're airborne. United Airlines said demand is spiking for flights heading to European cities that just happen to be on the path of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. Demand for flights to Lisbon, Portugal was up 25% year over year, while Milan and Munich saw over 45% more passengers. Over to OpenAI, the drama continues over there because OpenAI paused Sky, its new personal assistant, after backlash that the voice sounded suspiciously like Scarlett Johansson's in the film Her. Turns out, Sam Altman did actually ask to use the star's voice 9 months ago, but she declined. And she's coming out saying that she is now shocked, angered, and in disbelief over the current situation. Also, it is helpful to note that before GPT-4o launched, 2 days before, Sam Altman reached out once again to Scarlett Johansson to ask her yet again for her voice, which she also declined. So this kind of reeks over here. All right, next. $15.7 million. That is the new record high for median CEO pay in the Wall Street Journal's annual executive comp survey. The top earner at $161.83 million was Broadcom CEO Hock Tan. And finally, Comcast's upcoming streaming bundle, including Netflix, Peacock, and Apple TV Plus, now has a price tag of $15 per month. Users would save about $96 per year against unbundled prices, but they won't be able to bail on Peacock the second the Olympics are over, unfortunately. What do you make of this streaming bundle deal, Mark?
There are just too many bundles now to the point of where I was so confused by the amount of streamers that there were, but now I'm like, okay, what are all the bundles again? But in kind of remembering what this one is, I actually do think it's a pretty good deal and frankly a good move by these companies, particularly Comcast, which obviously has been shedding cable subscribers for many years. But I think that at the $15 a month, obviously they're going to try to get you in on a longer term deal. Thus, you can't just get rid of Peacock, which I think a lot of people are considering doing, either after the Olympics or now that the English Premier League has ended just a few days ago. Mm-hmm. So, this is just the future. I mean, that's the bottom line is we're going to go back to some form of bundling, which is, in my opinion, actually good for the consumer. And I hope that ends up being the case.
Yeah, and this one seems quite beneficial for the consumer considering that Netflix itself hovers around $15 a month. So, I mean,
exactly.
You just can't leave whenever you want, I guess. So if you're somebody who subscribes to Netflix monthly, you might as well just do this so you get all these services.
Yeah, well, I know. I didn't think I'd see this day coming so quickly, but it's really gotten here.
I know. All right, on to the main story today. So we are here today to expand on the conversation about Red Lobster's bankruptcy filing. They're in a pretty bad way right now with many locations closing, but they're not gone forever yet. So Mark, first, what do you think is the real reason for the chain's bankruptcy?
There's a lot of reasons. There's like a pretty popular kind of theory that's been going around for the last several months as Red Lobster has talked about some of its financial difficulties. And, that's in part just because the restaurant's own leadership has brought this up, is that they made a big mistake last summer. Mm-hmm. They extended their typically kind of seasonal, limited time only, endless shrimp deal to a full-time thing. And they were doing this in hopes of kind of like ginning up demand for the restaurant, which had fallen, but they ginned up way too much of it. I think it cost something like $20 for the all-you-can-eat shrimp. And I mean, the restaurant management was saying like, even if they had priced it at like 25 or even more, that they were not going to be profitable on it once so many people started to come in. Mm-hmm. So they ended up losing an estimated $11 million from that deal, which is a lot of money. But I mean, keep in mind, this is Red Lobster. You're talking hundreds of locations. So that's a lot. But to say that that would be the thing that like brings down, like, frankly, a giant is just a bit much. And so if you go back in time, there were a lot more reasons of things that have happened.
Yeah, that just seems like the latest blow, maybe the last straw that broke the camel's back when it comes to this, because from your reporting here, it seems that there's been issues for quite a long time, going back even 5 years ago to different CEOs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they've ran through CEOs basically over the last 4 years. I think they've had 5 since 2020. But it's kind of interesting. Red Lobster was, frankly, a revolutionary restaurant. It brought seafood to parts of the country that never had it, and at a price point that was at least a little bit more affordable for someone in the middle class. So people in Ohio could go to Red Lobster, in Kansas, et cetera. Mm-hmm. The restaurant was founded in 1968. It was huge in the 70s, 80s, on into the 90s. It started to become a little less popular in the 2000s. And part of that was because of mismanagement. It was originally started by William Darden, who then sold to General Mills. General Mills ran it for a long time before spinning it off as part of this restaurant group. And then by this point, this restaurant group, it had a lot of different priorities. And so Red Lobster started to fall off a little bit. And so they sold it in 2014 to a private equity firm. Mm-hmm. And, private equity firms are not always a disaster, but they are sometimes. And there's many high profile instances of them being, really bad for the restaurant industry and other industries. And that was the case with Red Lobster.
Right. And then most recently, it seems like control of Red Lobster went to Thai Union in 2020. So up until recently, it seems like they have been calling the shots. But we've seen a lot of investors kind of pull out of Red Lobster, as we saw with Golden Gate Capital. And people have been going out and in for quite a few years on this, it looks like.
Yeah, and Thai Union, they're like a seafood producer. So it's kind of funny that the thing that potentially failed Red Lobster, or was the straw on the camel's back, like you mentioned, was that this company was like, there's a lot of shrimp around. We happen to produce shrimp. Let's sell it unlimited for Red Lobster. And it turned out, obviously poorly for Red Lobster. And, frankly, according to some of the reporting by like CNN, Wall Street Journal, and others, it turned out poorly for Thai Union as well, right? Even though they ostensibly had this new demand for all-you-can-eat shrimp and they produced the shrimp, it just didn't work out. So yeah, there was just like a lot of mismanagement involved. The bankruptcy filing for Red Lobster shows that they have somewhere between $1 billion and $10 billion in liabilities. So again, that's a lot more than just shrimp.
And that's also just a super wide range. We're talking $9 billion of possible liabilities. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
And, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, shrimp is a lot harder to source than, like Olive Garden's endless bread. So maybe that is an idea that potentially should have dawned on them earlier. But even with, as we said, the endless shrimp debacle, it seems like there have been a lot more issues plaguing them than just that, especially coming out of COVID with having less people going to these restaurants just in general, losing that, and also having inflation lately. It seems just like a financial mess for any real chain restaurant to go through right now, let alone Red Lobster.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really, really bad time for chain sit-down restaurants. Red Lobster is just one of many that has had trouble over the last couple of years. California Pizza Kitchen filed for bankruptcy since the pandemic. At Ruby Tuesday, it had a bankruptcy filing and kind of emerged out of it in like 2021, but it is again having trouble now. Mm-hmm. So the problem is like people don't go to restaurants as much as they did in 2019, particularly, these chain restaurants, while not necessarily of bad quality, but they are kind of stayed. They're something that people have had for a long time. And similar to movie theaters, you need to have something extra that makes people want to go there. Mm-hmm. And then they also don't necessarily have robust takeout or delivery businesses, which is what people want now. Right. So they're finding that they have to either sort of like evolve to survive or just like really struggle, which is what Red Lobster had been doing.
Yeah. I mean, talking about evolving too. So Red Lobster is kind of down, but they're not exactly out yet. And they're kind of going in this new direction of refocusing. Their current CEO has said a lot about downsizing, which they've, of course, been doing and kind of focusing on a bunch of key locations. Where do you think Red Lobster is going to end up from this? Do you think that they could possibly get out of the hole?
Yeah, I do, because, and granted, this is probably just reflecting some sort of my own bias, because I think Red Lobster really is, as corny as it is to say, it is kind of a special restaurant. Like people really do love going there for like their birthday or for like, maybe an anniversary or graduation, these sort of like really important life events. And so Red Lobster means a lot to a lot of people. And I think that it's obviously going to scale back. They already have, and they probably will even more, shutting down some more restaurants. They might have to like find a way to make more money off of like carry out and other things like that. And that could mean shifting a little bit away from like their main model of being just this sort of like destination place where you sit down and eat. But, some restaurants, they've made it out of bankruptcy and kind of staged comebacks. And I just think like Red Lobster is just still such an important brand that it is going to make it. I mean, the issue might be, how well is its leadership? How good is its ownership going to be? And how serious will they be taking care of it in the way that I think like its customers want it to be taken care of?
Yeah, sure. And as we've seen, it really all comes down to the leadership, and the leadership just hasn't been there for them. I mean, you have other chains like this, like Bubba Gump. They're still around. I haven't heard anything bad about Bubba Gump lately. So, I mean, obviously there may not be some sort of shrimp problem hovering around. So, I mean, we'll just have to see how this nets out. But you did make a great point in this article as well, talking about how they do have some other streams of income available, like their biscuits.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. You can still get those. According to USA Today, the Cheddar Bay Biscuit mix is still available at grocery stores. So even if that Red Lobster location closed by that is near where you live, there's still a good way to get a fix, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think I speak for everybody when I say thank God.
Yeah, I mean, those are great biscuits.
They're really good. All right, and that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hey everybody, I got a great podcast to tell you about. It's called Truth, Lies, and Work, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. On this show, you can join husband and wife team Al and Leanne Elliott as they dispel myths, impart wisdom, and answer all your questions about finding, keeping, and motivating great people. They actually just did an episode with John Smith, who is the manager and agent of famous Argentinian soccer player Diego Maradona. He talks about in this episode how he was able to manage the global superstar, athlete, celebrity that Maradona is and was. It's a great listen. You better get out there and check it out. And you can listen to Truth, Lies, and Work wherever you get your podcasts.